Hey there, church family. My name is Scott Green. I'm here today to give you day 3 in the 7 sayings of Christ from the cross. Today we're going to be looking at the words of Christ given to us from John chapter 19. And in this scene, John chapter 19, the Apostle John is turning our attention to the people that are with and around Jesus there at the cross of his crucifixion. They first mentioned there in John chapter 19 that the soldiers were taking his garments and they were casting lots for them. The very last possessions, probably the only possessions Jesus ever really had, was his clothes, and they distributed that among themselves. They didn't give it back to the next of kin like we would do today, but instead the soldiers selfishly kept his last garments and his clothes to themselves. Also there at the cross, there was crowds that were jeering and his haters of Jesus, saying, if this is Jesus come down from the cross, if you're a God, have the angels save you. So his haters were there. And also something interesting, who was not there was the disciples. Only John, the beloved, who was still there at the cross, remaining faithful to his Messiah. The rest of the disciples had ran in fear and shame, and was not there present to watch their Messiah on the cross. But also present there was Jesus' mother, Mary, and her sister and other family members and friends. And these few ladies there with the disciple John were there to look with great sorrow in the passing and the death of Mary's son. Mary's soul was being pierced at that moment to see her child die. I'll never forget my grandmother telling me when I was a young kid that it's a terrible thing for a parent to outlive her children. And so Mary's experiencing that. She's already lost her husband, Joseph. We have no record of him being alive at this point. So Jesus, not even there with the presence of his own brothers. Only Mary, his mother, and one disciple there at the cross with a few other extended family members. And at this moment there, he says the words, "Woman, behold your son." You would think at first he's referring to himself as an act of pity. Look at me, mother, at what's happened to me today. Woman, look at me, your son. But no, that's not what he's talking about. In that moment, Jesus on the cross, seeing his mother and his disciple John there, he is looking to Mary, his mother, saying, "Woman, behold John, your son." He is now passing off provision for Mary to be taken care of by John. So in that moment, it's not a moment of pity, but instead it's a moment of actually protection. It was interesting that Jesus didn't say, "Mother, behold your son." He said, "Woman, behold your son." At first you think it's a cold indifference to the woman who gave him birth, but instead it's actually a way to protect her from the jeering crowd, because if he would have said, "Mother," then the crowd would have looked at her and probably cast insults upon her. So to protect her, he said, "Woman, behold your son." And he was nodding towards the Apostle John. And also when he said that, he said to the disciple who's standing there, the Bible says, he says, "Behold your mother." So Jesus hanging there, unable to point because his hands are affixed to the cross, merely gives a nod to Mary, looking at John, to say, "This is now your mother to care for." So in this day, the last act of his act of devotion to his mother was an act of protection and provision, to make sure that Mary was provided for after his death, because at this moment, his brother James wasn't there. The other brothers was not there, but only this disciple, John, the beloved, was there in these last hours to be with Jesus, and he made sure that he was taking care of his mother by saying, disciple John, behold your mother. What great love that Jesus had in these last dying moments of his life, to use his last breath and his last words on the cross there to make sure he's taking care of his mother. Totally unselfish, totally a servant from his birth to his death, always thinking about others around him. What a great God we serve. And this is the Jesus, the Messiah, that we celebrate this week, that he is worthy of our praise. Have a great day.